And welcome to the Breeders' Cup Fallout edition of And They're Off. It's been 10 days since the big event, and we have enough side plots to fuel an Agatha Christie mystery here. Steve Haskin, in our last show, we said somewhat presciently that Zenyatta did not have to win the Breeders' Cup Classic to be considered a great horse, and boy, did she ever prove that. People are coming to realize now that as great a racehorse as she's been, more impressive still might be what she does for people off the racetrack. Steve, you were around her quite a bit.
Yes, I was. And I have to tell you, it's been 10 days since the Breeders' Cup, and normally by now I'd be able to analyze everything and get some separation from the emotional fervor that we had there for 5 days. But I have to admit, I still have not come down from the Zenyatta sphere. It was just something that I had never seen before. Especially, we know she ran an amazing race, in defeat. But those days, especially the last day, the Sunday, the day after the race, when she was out there grazing for like 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, to watch this, to watch people stop their cars all along Longfield Avenue, jam up to the chain link fence with their cameras, little kids, signs. One person jumped up on somebody's shoulders and passed a cake, a big, huge cake over the fence, and they presented it to Zenyatta. The Mosses were there just mingling and talking to the people. Dottie Sheriffs and John Sheriffs came around. People, it was like an amusement park. People were lined up like they were waiting for like little kids on a pony ride to go up to Zenyatta to have their picture taken with her. And they were feeding her carrots, and they were feeding her apples, and they were hugging her, and they were kissing her, and they were doing everything, petting her. And you know what? I was one of them. I did all of those things, and you know what? You can't help it. You just get caught up in the whole in the whole experience, and it was unlike anything I've ever seen. It was surreal. The only thing that came close to it was when they brought Cigar to the National Horse Show at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
And that to me was surreal. This is the only thing that even comes close to that. In fact, it probably, surpassed it in just the whole surreal nature of it.
Steve, you can no longer make fun of me for kissing my dogs.
No, I will not,
Okay.
because I planted a good one right on her snout there.
Zenyatta has done the near impossible, folks. She's actually given horse racing a good name, and I don't know any other single entity among us that can do that. So it was a remarkable Breeders' Cup week following her. That being said, we're not going to get into the Horse of the Year discussion here because it is an argument without end. And I will say this, Blame, the horse that defeated Zenyatta, is a very, very good racehorse who rewarded Claiborne Farm on its 100th anniversary of existence. And for those people criticizing Claiborne for retiring Blame, knock it off. Steve likes to say often that every horse has a story behind it, and the story here is that Claiborne, for much of the 20th century, was the dominant thoroughbred breeding farm in North America. Recently, because of the influx of new money into this business and breeding practices that stress quantity over the traditional horsemanship that Claiborne practices, Claiborne is not able to compete today with some of the other farms on the high-priced stallions. Folks, horses don't come from storks. They come from farms with tremendous amounts of overhead in land, staff, vet bills, taxes, and horse flesh. And when you have the opportunity to retire a 4-year-old homebred, a champion, a horse that could potentially mean the difference between merely existing and truly succeeding as an ongoing entity, you must take that opportunity. Claiborne cannot afford not to retire Blame now. I'm sorry if that's controversial, but Steve, what do you got?
I totally agree. And like you said, people forget that this horse is a 4-year-old.
Yeah. People come up to me and said it's a 3-year-old. No, it's not a 3-year-old.
I know. Right, exactly. In this day and age, we all hope, we can only hope that horses stay in training through their 4-year-old campaign. Now you've got a farm, like you said, like Claiborne, who has a chance to have a 4-year-old, okay, become the new big-name foundation sire that they've been searching for years.
Yeah.
How could they not retire him? They can't afford to. And even if they did keep him in training, what is there left for him to attain other than what he just attained by winning the Breeders' Cup Classic? There's nothing left for him to do. So you have to take advantage of while he's hot, which he is right now. He's not going to get any hotter than he is right now.
Yeah, yeah. This is not the same as Bernardini being hustled off as a 3-year-old.
Oh, God, no.
Who lost the Classic. So, yeah, this.
Right.
And listen, one other thing. There are people, the farm has received hate mail because Blame defeated Zenyatta in the Classic. So I sincerely hope that anybody who sent hate mail to Claiborne is not watching this, because we really don't want you as viewers. That is just pathetically moronic. This is horse racing. It's competition. It's fair and square. And unless you're a fan of walkovers, people are going to line up their horses to try to beat the best, as they should. And in this case, you know, Blame was good enough to know Zenyatta, and kudos to both of them. So.
I didn't realize they got hate mail. That's,
yes.
that's pretty sick.
Yeah, that's pretty bad stuff. All right, Steve, another Breeders' Cup subplot. The gamblers really took it in the shorts again, at least the ones who bet millions of dollars on Life at 10 in the Ladies' Classic to win, or in the exotics where most of the money goes. Her trainer, Todd Pletcher, saw this horse was wrong in the paddock. Her jockey, John Velasquez, felt the horse was wrong on the racetrack. They had a duty to notify veterinarians of this. The trainer claimed that the jockey did so. The veterinarians, the chief stewards, and everybody else directly contradict that and say he did not ever, neither of them contacted the veterinarians before the race. The rider then tells millions of people watching on TV that the horse is wrong, and then proceeds to let her jog around the track in last place. Nice job by everybody concerned there. They really gave a fair shake to the bettors on this one, didn't they, Steve?
Yeah, the bottom line is this was a total embarrassment to racing. I mean, everything that could go wrong went wrong, and everyone involved was to blame to some degree. Everyone. And it just doesn't make any sense for something like this to happen on a major stage like this. It was horrible to watch if you're on TV, because listen, I was at the track, so I wasn't privy of all this. But to watch the replay and to imagine what these people were thinking watching on TV, okay? I know some people that went and changed their bets to put savers down after that. They just threw Life at 10 out. But what about the people at the racetrack? Like myself, who had no idea what was going on. What about the people that bet this filly in exactas and in trifectas and superfectas, which most people did because she was the second choice in the race?
Yeah.
When John Velasquez says this horse isn't right, and then they ask him again as he's walking to the gate, and she said she still isn't right. I mean, what do you think, something like this? And all these excuses that you keep hearing, well, I shouldn't say excuses, but the possibilities.
Yeah.
Oh, well, maybe it was a reaction to Lasix. You know, I think maybe she tied up. Yeah. Oh, I don't buy any of that. First of all, I don't know of any trainers, any veterinarians, any jockeys that don't know a horse is tying up when they see it.
Yeah.
So something was going on. Like I said, everyone here was at fault. And my last point on this is that why was this horse not tested after the race? I know she was tested before the race for milkshakes, but what about the 6 or 7 hours in between the time she was tested and the race itself? I know if this was in England, the stewards would have gotten right on this, and this filly would have been tested. Any horse on a major stage like this that runs the way she did, didn't even. I can't even say run. She didn't even run a step in the race. Yeah. I know Pletcher is quoted as saying that he gave Velasquez instructions. Well, warm her up, see how she feels. Well, okay, then what? Then he said, well, I gave him instructions to see if she can work out of it in the race. Well. And then what? I mean, there's no close end to this. What is Velasquez supposed to do? His responsibility was to tell the stewards, and like you said, he didn't. So I think everyone is to blame. That's the bottom line. It's just a shame that it had to happen.
Yeah, and there's an investigation going now, but it's starting to smell like it may not be as thorough. The Horse Racing Commission in Kentucky has no excuse for not testing this horse after the race. Not when the bettors have lost millions of dollars on a very shaky proposition here. And the excuse that there's too many horses in front of her, we couldn't test her in the barn. Come on, guys. We know you're underfunded, but you better do the right thing here. This is a huge black eye on racing's biggest stage, and there's no excuse for not doing the right thing. Spend a couple of bucks and get it right and test the horses that need to be tested, and let's have some answers on this. All right, speaking of television, Steve, you managed to watch the TV coverage of the Breeders' Cup after the fact. What'd you think of all that?
Well, we're running short of time now after our rants on this. And anyway, you know what? Anything that I say or anyone says about ESPN's atrocious camera work of the races, you know what? It's gonna fall on deaf ears anyway, because the more you criticize them, the more they do it, and the more crazy they get in their camera shots. All I know is that watching it on TV, I had no clue what was going on with this stupid blimp shot, you know, where you don't know what it is. It's like watching an ant race. You know, you might as well be watching it from a satellite up in space. You don't know what's going on. Some of the other shots going into the turn, you might as well be standing on the roof of Papa John Stadium without binoculars watching the race. The constant camera cuts is just, you know what? The bottom line is, another bottom line is, I'm glad I was at the racetrack watching it live and didn't have to subject myself to watch this. But I will say, okay, but on the other hand, I don't want this to be total negative. I will say that ESPN did capture perhaps the most profound shot and moving shot that I've seen in a long time. And that was a shot of Goldakova's lad running on the dirt track during the stretch run of the mile and just leaping wildly with joy all across the dirt track. I'm just actually following the last 16th of a mile, running uncontrollably. And this is what racing is all about. This is the joy, the passion that we have in racing, and it all came out in the exuberance of Goldakova's lad. And I just think that was a great, great shot. So I'll give kudos to ESPN for that for sure.
I thought you were going to mention Frankie Dettori's flying dismount, Steve.
Oh, God. Well, listen, there were plenty of them, so we know, we got a lot of Eclipse Award-winning photos this year.
While attendance was up at the two-day Breeders' Cup this year over 2009, I actually thought it was disappointing that more people didn't show up to see Zenyatta run. First of all, it's somewhat fictional, these attendance numbers, so I wouldn't take those to the bank to begin with. But at Churchill Downs, when they closed the infield like they did for the Breeders' Cup, if you buy a general admission ticket to come in for the Breeders' Cup, which was a big advertising campaign beforehand, you cannot get to a point on the racetrack where you can see the horses on the racetrack or the racetrack itself. Unlike Belmont or Santa Anita that have aprons where people can go and walk and actually view the races, at Churchill Downs you cannot watch the races live. So given the 60 Minutes feature on Zenyatta, given the fact that TV viewership was up 200%, I thought the live attendance of 70,000 really was not that great. And seeing at Churchill Downs, regular people who aren't millionaires have the choice of paying hundreds of dollars to sit in a rusted folding chair from 1958 or stand in a windy breezeway watching TV monitors. My opinion, Churchill Downs should never be considered as a permanent site for this event. Not for the $2 better, not for the $10 better. All right. Steve, loose ends, any other tidbits from the Breeders' Cup? I know you've got some fun facts.
Yes, I do have a few that are kind of interesting. The first one, how's this for a statistic? In the past 5 runnings of the Classic, the Mosses and John Sheriffs have finished 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. That's quite an accomplishment when you think about it. 5 runnings, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Wow.
Love that statistic. I want to give credit where it's due to the California shippers. I know they only won one race. Most of them were coming from synthetic surface. A lot of them were running on dirt for the first time. They only won one race, but they had 4 seconds and 4 thirds, and I thought they acquitted themselves very, very well on the whole Breeders' Cup. There was some really, really good performances from horses who finished second and third. New York shippers dominated, 5 wins, 7 seconds, and a third. She shows you what happens, the difference between when they run the Breeders' Cup in California and when they run it in the East.
Yeah.
And you know what? Congratulations to the forgotten jockey, Edgar Prado, who, you know, had only 2 Breeders' Cup mounts. I mean, it wasn't that long ago where people would be beating down his door to give him mounts. He was one of the top jockeys in the country. He has 2 Breeders' Cup mounts. He wins the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf, you know, with a 46-to-1 shot, and then hops on a plane and is riding at Aqueduct the next day. So you know what? Congratulations to Edgar for winning that race with only 2 mounts. And finally, also kudos to Arch. Everybody's talking about Arch. Oh yeah, it was great that he sired the Breeders' Cup Classic winner. Well, he was also the broodmare sire of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner, a horse that right now is a red-hot favorite for the Kentucky Derby. So a great day for Arch and Claiborne Farm in that respect.
Yeah. All right. Very good. Well, that's our initial analysis of the Breeders' Cup. I'm sure we'll have more ramification as time goes on. Stable Boy saved himself some money. He got confused about the order of the races, which prevented him from betting on his pick. Is she legal? Stable Boy, what are you doing with all that extra money? You're a very lucky man.
I might eat lunch today. Maybe.
Good. Well, we'll keep an eye on Is She Legal for her next start and carrying Stable Boy's hopes and dreams. All right, we'd like to thank our viewers. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Darby Dan Farm, whose Winter Memories finished second in the Juvenile Fillies Turf. Hope for big things from her next year. We will see you back here on December the 1st with our next edition of And They're Off. Steve, keep warm out there.
I will try. Thank you.
All right.
And
bye.
you too.
Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.